protein powders are filled with lead, right? So this article came out a few days ago, but it also came out last year. Some of the most popular brands of protein powders have been tested, and the medical study is very sound, and they tested products that are available on shelves. So they weren't given special samples. This was a very well done study. And basically what they found is that most protein powders have lead in them. The amount really depends on brand, but also type. So the reason for this is vegan protein powders are worse offenders. Vegan protein powders are made from things like soy, pea protein, and these plants, where they're farmed, the soil for these plants are very high in heavy metals. So what does that mean? That means that the heavy metals end up in the end product and they end up in your body. While there are no specific hard and fast rules about how many heavy metals you should be consuming, places like California have recommended limits, and none of these products are actually going to be recalled because of that, because obviously just because you purchase something doesn't mean you're consuming it, for example, every single day. And some people won't actually start to have issues with their heavy metal consumption from some of these products, depending on the product, if they're not consuming it every single day. So this is a bit of a complicated situation, but I want to be clear. It's really important that anytime we're buying a super processed product, we understand that we are putting ourselves at risk for, to be quite frank, things that we don't know. We don't know how the soil is farmed. We don't truly know how the animals are managed right. We think we're buying pasture-raised eggs with, no hormones and feed that isn't just corn. We don't always know. So anytime you're outsourcing your food, we're taking a bit of a risk. And this isn't to make you afraid. It's just the reality of our food system. Information should serve as a reminder to you that you should be diversifying your food and especially your protein consumption as much as possible. So what does this mean? Just like how we know fish is very high in plastics and heavy metals, you should be diversifying. Maybe you have fish once a week, maybe you have beef once a week, maybe you have chicken once a week, preferably chlorine-free chicken, so like a Bell & Evans brand. Maybe you have turkey, maybe you have a vegan option once a week, and maybe you're only using a protein powder sparingly as needed in a pinch. The more you diversify your intake, to be honest, the more you diversify your risk and you don't put all your eggs in one basket. So if you're consuming a little bit from all these different sources, ideally, right, you shouldn't have an issue with heavy metals. You shouldn't have an issue with PFAS, BHT, etc. from any single one source. So for example, I used to eat a lot of fish and a lot of protein powder, and I had really high levels of heavy metals. How did I know this? I got 2 blood tests that showed this. So what did I do? I stopped consuming as much fish and as much protein powder. And so there are services out there to help you. I used Function, which is not cheap. It was gifted to me as a wellness influencer, and they're simply testing. They have a lot of different tests available. You can go to your local Quest Diagnostics, you can go to LabCorp, you can order these tests for yourself if you truly are concerned. The treatment plan really just is for most of us to stop eating the problem, but it can also involve things like taking antioxidants, lymphatic drainage, supporting your detox pathways, etc. So it's not like you have to change everything about your life, but if you get a test back like that, then that can be a really helpful indication that this is a problem for you. I want to be clear though that I'm not fear-mongering. I have never met anyone else, all my clients included, who's ever had a high heavy metal test. That just goes to show you how much vegan protein powder and fish I truly was consuming. I was a pescatarian at the time. It made sense. I thought it made sense for me. It didn't. That's fine. I changed my ways. So we can be wrong. My doctorate in sports nutrition and exercise science. I'm not right about everything. You can't possibly be right about everything all the time. And so we have to be open to the knowledge. We have to be open to the education, but we also have to be realistic, and we have to read these medical studies, because sometimes articles are just clickbait. Sometimes, the headline is not actually what the study found. And exactly why I don't tell my clients to overconsume protein powders. They should really be a last resort, just like a protein bar should be a last resort. Even if there's nothing wrong with the ingredients in the protein bar, we should still be reaching for whole nutrient dense foods as often as we can. Don't need to be scared, but if you diversify your consumption, if you can get as much local produce and local whatever from a farmer's market, if you live in a city, from a town nearby, that's great. That should help eliminate some of these risks. You know, a smaller farm ideally shouldn't have the same risks as the larger ones, but we never truly know, so do your best. Remember that food is fuel, food is not love, food is not emotions. Ultra processed foods have risks, and that anytime you have a choice between eating something not processed, minimally processed, and ultra processed, that you should pick the not processed whenever possible.